Hi everybody, this is Rich from the Rich Maxwell channel. Welcome back. If you're new, this channel is about drones and photography. I say that every time on my videos, but obviously not a lot of people subscribing, so please do consider subscribing if you're into drones and photography. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the Sony A7 Mark II, which is my first full-frame camera. I absolutely love this camera. It takes amazing photographs, been really pleased with it. But I'm just going to talk about the bad points of the camera, the things that I really hate about it and the real negatives. So these are things that you might want to consider if you're looking at buying this camera. Maybe it will make you want to spend a bit more and get the A7 Mark III, or look at some of the APS-C cameras that Sony do, which are also superb cameras. But yeah, I'm going to talk through the negatives then. And if you're interested in the A7 II, you might want to also check out my 2020 review video that I published a few weeks ago. So I'll link that in the corner right now. But yeah, on to this video then. So the bad points about the A7 II, things I hate about it. Number one has got to be the battery life. So this gets really annoying. I usually have to carry about 4 batteries with me whenever I take this camera out for some photography, or just for a day out generally, where I might capture a bit of video as well as photos. So the good thing is though, the batteries are quite cheap for it. You can get third-party batteries really cheap on Amazon, and they come with like a dual charger for about £20 in England, or maybe $20–30 in the US. So it's not too bad a thing, but it does get annoying when you start filming and then your battery just runs out, like happens quite a lot when I do these YouTube videos, unfortunately. And another negative thing that I hate about it, only one SD card slot, and it's not a UHS 2 slot, so it's not one of the super high-speed modern slots. It's just a regular SD card slot. So only one slot. Luckily, I haven't had any SD cards fail on me, but if you're a pro photographer shooting things like weddings, then you'd certainly want to have a dual SD card slot on your camera so that you get a backup copy of all your images in case the worst happens. Nothing would be worse, obviously, than losing somebody's photos of their big day. So yeah, definitely get the A7 III that has the dual SD card slots if you're taking photos that are of critical importance like that. And next up, a thing that does get a bit annoying on this camera, a bit of a negative, is the low light autofocus. When the light is low, it does struggle to lock on to focus. Luckily for me, when I do low light photography, it tends to be landscapes, and then I'm quite happy to just use manual focus. And the manual focus in this camera is superb, as you've got focus peaking, which makes everything in focus turn into sort of like a red outline, so you can really easily pick out focus manually. But if you're, say, shooting like I don't know, in nightclubs or in dark places quite regularly, then you might struggle with the autofocus just a bit. So that's something to consider. And next up, thing that really bugs me on this camera is the exposure compensation dial. It's right on the top in the corner. It gets knocked and turned really easily in my camera bag, and there's been so many times when I've gone to take some photos and then realised that my exposure compensation is set to like +3 or -3, and I've got images that I thought were going to be well exposed coming out just looking ridiculous. So that is really annoying about this camera. And next up, and probably the worst thing that I've experienced with the camera, is the video recording performance. So all my YouTube videos I shoot with this A7 II typically, and I've been quite disappointed with the quality of the footage. It only shoots in 1080p, and if it is good quality 1080p footage, then that's fine. I can work with 1080p. I do prefer 4K, as that enables you to kind of crop in and not lose so much detail. So when I do things like this, where I zoom in on myself randomly in my videos, it's not going to lose so much quality. So that's a great thing about 4K. I know a lot of people say that 4K, you don't need it, it's not essential, but really it is getting to be more the standard these days, and I wouldn't buy a camera that would only shoot 1080p if I was going to buy another one. And also the quality, as I say, with the 1080p, if it was just good quality 1080p, it'd probably be okay, but this A7 II, the 1080p video footage just doesn't come out very good. I find that I do any slight colour grading and detail just gets lost, and colours just kind of get blown out, and it just looks really soft for some reason. I don't know why. Photos come out really sharp and perfect out of this camera, but for some reason video, it's a real struggle for this camera. It just does not shoot very good video at all. So if you're going to shoot a lot of video, don't get this camera. get something like the A6300, which funny enough I've ordered an A6300 body to help with my video projects. And a final negative thing that I hate about this camera is the lens prices. So the full frame lenses for Sony E-mount, they are typically quite expensive, and there's not many used ones out there on eBay like you find with Canon. Obviously Canon has been doing full frame cameras for much longer than Sony's been doing its E-mount lenses in full frame, so there's a much larger selection of old lenses on eBay that will work on a Canon full frame camera, and they have some superb lenses for the Canon full frame system generally anyway, if you're looking brand new, and they're priced quite competitively. The full frame lenses, I mean, for any maker are expensive, but they seem especially so, I think, for the Sony. For example, this 50mm Nifty 50 f1.8 Sony E-mount lens, I think this comes in at about 150, 180 here in the UK. That's in pound sterling, so maybe a couple $100 in the US. And on eBay, or well, in a lot of places like Amazon, you can typically find Canon Nifty 50s for about 80 quid. So quite a big difference there in the price of just a basic 50mm 1.8 lens. So that's something to consider if you're thinking of getting this lens. The lens prices might be a bit of a shock, so keep that in mind. Luckily, there are a few more third parties making lenses for the Sony E-mount system now. We've got this Tamron 28-75 that is a superb lens that I've put a review out about recently. Link to that in the corner right now. And there's Samyang making some good lenses. The Viltrox f1.8 85mm, great lens. Got that review linked again in the corner. So there's some good options out there from third-party manufacturers now, and there's also the option to adapt Canon lenses to this camera. So you can get adapters from Metabones or Sigma, or the one that I've got is a Yongnuo EFE Mark II lens adapter. So it's a budget make, but works really well. So there is options to use Canon lenses on this, but if you use a Canon lens, you're probably gonna lose autofocus, as I found that autofocus just does not work for video on this camera. Works fine for photography though, and just as fast as a native lens. So that's my video about the A7II and things I hate about it. So I hope that's been helpful. As I said, I love this camera. I think it's superb for photography. It's more the videography side that it struggles with, and things like battery life could be annoying if it's of critical importance for you to have a camera that can shoot hundreds, thousands of pictures in a day. It might annoy you that you have to keep swapping batteries all the time, but it's a great camera, great way to get into full frame photography and experience the depth of field you can get from the full frame lenses, the bokeh, and the rich range of colours and detail that you can capture from a full frame sensor. It's just so much nicer than an APS-C. So highly recommend the camera overall, but there's some drawbacks with it, some negatives, and I hope this has been helpful. Please consider subscribing and watching out for more videos. Maybe give this one a like and share with your friends. Bye for now, everyone. Have a great day.